Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, the editor-in-chief of Total Retail, and I'm excited to be joined on today's episode by Kevin Tulip, who is the U.S. president of Primark, and we're going to talk with Kevin about that retail brand's broader U.S. expansion strategy. I know it has a couple store openings in the works, and really excited there. So we're going to talk all about the exciting things that Primark has going on, particularly here in the U.S. So, Kevin, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on, Joe.
So as I get started, I want to have you tell the audience a little bit about your retail career. And one thing I noticed as I kind of did my research for this episode is that you've been a long-standing veteran of Primark with the company for 22 years. So tell me a little bit about the organization and what has made it a place that you want to spend so much of your time at and your career at.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I actually celebrated quite recently 22 years, so just over 2 decades with Primark. I started as a sales associate in one of our stores in the UK, and of course at that time it was a part-time job as alongside my studies. But I really quickly fell in love with the fast pace of retail. I really fell in love with the product focus, the entrepreneurial sort of attitude that was there. And actually, I really could see that there was a career path ahead there. So quite quickly, I decided that I wanted to really get into some management training that was available within Primark at the time. And actually, I was very lucky. Primark was going through some significant growth in the UK at that very moment. So I had the opportunity to move around the UK, to be kind of fully mobile, and to take a number of different opportunities and promotions around the UK. I really then moved over to continental Europe, so I had the chance to, I guess, also satisfy some of my desire to travel, to learn a different language, and to really sort of experience what it meant to be a leader in a different culture. It was a super interesting topic to me, and with Primark came the opportunity to lead the Belgian and Dutch business. So I spent about 7 years living in the Netherlands, running both of those markets. And then more recently, just over 3 years ago, I took on the role of president over here in the US.
So thank you for that and kind of giving us a little bit of a background on your personal career. I think my next follow-up would be, and this is for the audience behalf, is maybe tell us a little bit about the history and the heritage of Primark. We've talked about it kind of expanding and growing here in the U.S., but really it's a company with its roots in Europe. So tell us a little bit about the history of Primark for our audience.
So it's certainly not a new business. We started in 1969 in Dublin, Ireland. That was our first store, and our original store on Mary Street was really set up with the goal of bringing affordable fashion to the people of Ireland. That was the original premise of that Mary Street store, something that still holds true today. From Ireland, we then grew out and expanded into the UK, and then moved from the UK also into continental Europe as well. Across the last more than 5 decades, we've obviously grown as a business, not only in countries, but also in terms of product as well. That focus around affordability, around style, around quality, durability, and affordability has continued to evolve and continue to grow, as the business has as well. So today we are well over 450 stores. We're in 17 countries. We've got 80,000 colleagues worldwide, and we're continuing on that growth as well. We've continued to grow additional categories. We've grown license partnerships. There's been a huge amount of development in our ethics and sustainability strategy. So there's been a real continued growth over the last number of decades, which has been really exciting. But that purpose, as I said, around affordability has remained.
So as you think about the U.S. market in particular, 17 countries, the U.S. being one of the newer markets that Primark is in, tell us a little bit about why this country has become a key priority for Primark, investing a lot of resources and manpower and time and energy in growing the business here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we are obviously on a really large growth ambition here in the US, but we've actually been in the US for 10 years almost now. So we first started in Boston with our first store at Downtown Crossing in 2015. And initially, the first few years were really around testing and learning. Did the business model work in the US? Was the Primark model that existed in 2015 suitable for expansion throughout the US? And the first few years, we opened a number of stores really focused in the Northeast. So very much around Boston, New York, Philadelphia. And actually, the first few years was, what is the right size of store for the US? How does the consumer shop our product? What products work? What products don't? So a huge amount of testing and learning. And then really, probably around 2018 was where we started to stretch our legs a little bit further. We opened a number of new stores, still stuck to the same type of geography around the Northeast. And actually then from 2021 on was when we really started to move outside of that Northeast area. So we opened our first store in Sawgrass Mills in South Florida, and we opened a store in Illinois, on State Street in Chicago. And that really, again, continued to give us the confidence around how the consumer shopped in Primark, and what were the different types of stores and how did they work. And ultimately, that gave us the confidence then actually to really start looking at what a full expansion plan could look like across the US, which really brings us to where we are today. We've got 27 stores trading. So we've opened a large number of stores in the last couple of years. And as we sit here today, 2 stores still to open before the end of 2024. And actually, we have 15 other store leases signed, ready to open as we get into 2025 and beyond. And lots more to come. So lots of testing and learning in the very beginning, but I'd say some of that mentality still continues today. We're certainly not sitting back. We're going to continue and make sure that the business model continues to be tested throughout the next couple of years and throughout the next couple of store openings as well.
As you've gone through that, as you initially noted, the testing and learning when you first came here, and it's been 10 years, right? So you've collected a lot of valuable data, I would imagine. I'm guessing that is being leveraged to inform future markets within the US and what makes sense for the different areas that you're going in. Can you tell us a little bit about the process for identifying additional markets here in the US where Primark stores would be a good fit and kind of how that process works?
We're in 12 states, or we will be in 12 states by the end of 2024. So we are in a lot of locations where we're able to really talk to our customers, talk to our colleagues, and really see how these new stores are trading. And I think, look, every single day we continue to come back to, right, what is working and how do we continue to make sure that the global business model that works in the US continues to be tailored to suit the local market. And I think that's by far and away some of the secret of our success is, yes, we've got a global range and we do that to be able to deliver that amazing product at that amazing price. But actually, it's really important that the local team have the right level of autonomy to be able to make the right decisions in the local area. So, we are opening or preparing to open our first store in Texas. Clearly, from a cultural standpoint, from a climate standpoint, very different in McAllen, Texas, to how our store in downtown Boston trades.
Mhm.
So rather than a team of people sitting in Boston dictating exactly what product works at what time of year, it's about actually hiring a team locally with the right level of experience in that mall, and actually then being able to get them to tell us what's working, what's not working, and how we can continue to tailor the range and also the operations of the store to suit. And I think, we've continued to do that wherever we've opened. If I think back to, Sawgrass Mills, that first store in Florida, we learned a lot in those first few months. And actually, that helped really shape our second store opening in Florida, where we opened quite recently in Orlando. And we opened a very successful store there. We had 1,500 people in line outside ready for the ribbon cut. A market where still we have relatively low brand awareness. And actually, we're really happy with how that second store's continued to trade. But I truly believe that, if we'd sat back and just made some assumptions sat in Boston around what that store needed, we wouldn't be as successful as we are today. So that level of listening to the store team, talking to customers, making sure that feedback is coming in, is for sure what continues to keep us on our toes. And as I said, is some of the secret of Primark's success.
I'm gonna go back to this idea of leveraging the data that you're collecting through the different touch points that you have consumers, and one of them being the Primark website. While not e-commerce enabled, necessarily transactional, there is product on there that people are viewing, they're looking at. So you're getting a sense of what is driving eyeballs, what are people interested in, and specifically what demographic areas is that traffic coming from. It's probably helping to lead and identify markets. So tell us a little bit about the kind of role that your website is playing in supporting the store expansion strategy here.
Yeah, as you said, our website in the US isn't transactional, but certainly, if I think about the amount of product that we have on there that's visible for our customers, we
Mhm.
have 60 to 80% of our range that's available there for our customers to see. We've got a stock checker availability on the website where people can plan for the visit they're going to make in terms of the item that I've seen on social media. Is that available in my local store as I think about preparing my trip out to the store or to the mall today? That allows us obviously to see, of course, what customers are looking at, but allows us to really showcase that product in conjunction with our social media channels. And although we don't transact online in the US, our social strategy has been incredibly important, and we have millions of followers that we've been able to build up over the last number of years globally on our channels that allows us to be able to bring that product to our customers. Really, the purpose of that website is, of course, to continue to drive people into store. So very much thinking around that entire journey of seeing a product, on social media, being able to check what's in my local store, being able to use the stock checker for that, and then being able to get the store information there to be able to drive you to the store is the exact purpose of that website, and something that we'll continue to build out. As a bricks and mortar retailer, as you can imagine, we're entirely geared up to getting somebody, who might otherwise be sat on their couch at home, up out into the mall and into our store to experience that thrill of in-store physical shopping and everything that comes with it.
The stores themselves, do you have a particular strategy preference in terms of where they're located? Mall based? Are they city centers? I think when you first came here to the US, a lot of downtown Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, they're in downtown areas, suburban areas. Is that a potential area for growth? Where do you think about store locations within your markets and the types of stores that you have in the portfolio?
It definitely continues to be part of that test and learn strategy. Today across the 27 stores that we've got trading today and two to open, we have a mix. We have, the downtown locations, the regional malls. We've got a couple of super regional malls like King of Prussia in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And we have some outlets. We've got, Sawgrass Mills, we've got Jersey Gardens in New Jersey as two examples. And actually, we're continuing to look at where the success and how those stores trade, and then what that looks like as we think about the future. But if I think about even the other stores that we've signed that will come, we still continue to broaden that range out. I mean, we've signed a store in Herald Square in Manhattan, the sort of the ultimate downtown
Mhm.
store, as well as we've got another few Mills malls, so really, that sort of that outlet style mall coming up as well. Clearly different consumer behavior, clearly some different customer journeys, but actually what we're seeing is that the wide range of product that we've got, and that notion of style, quality, durability, and more importantly, affordability is actually present in all of those locations where we trade. I think one thing that we do want, of course, is pre-existing foot traffic. So as a physical bricks and mortar retailer, obviously we are looking for where there is already some pre-existing foot traffic. So we do a lot of work on what are the locations that we want to be in. And actually it's really, the retail team in conjunction with the real estate team really stalking out these locations. And it's not just about the data, it's about being there. It's about seeing the foot traffic, checking out the competitor set, morning, noon, night, weekday, weekend, holiday, non-holiday. How does that mall or that shopping street or wherever it is, how is it performing and what are we seeing? And is that somewhere that we see a viable Primark store for the future? When we move into these locations, we're not setting up for a short period of time. We want to get in and set up and be able to serve a community for a long time to come. So making sure that we're really clear on the location types, the attributes for that location, what are we, willing to sort of agree on or not with those locations is super important to us, and where we spend a significant amount of our time.
As you enter new markets, and you mentioned this, I believe, with the Florida location, first location in Florida, there wasn't a lot of brand awareness at that time. So as you seek to create that consumer awareness for Primark here in the US, particularly outside of the Northeast, where you've been here for, I'm in the Philadelphia market, so it's a recognizable name here. In Texas, it might not yet be a recognizable name. So what do you think about in terms of creating that market awareness for your stores and just for the brand itself in general?
I think the exciting thing about Primark in the US is, although we have got a start on building brand awareness, we're actually still at a really low level. I mean, even in markets like Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, where we've had some stores, actually, we're still only really just getting started on some of the brand awareness there. I think, we've launched quite recently throughout the summer, we launched our first brand campaign in New York. We ran for 3 months, which was really exciting. First opportunity to get out and really do some real kind of brand awareness build. And we're really happy with how that went. So we're really, starting to look at what does that mean for us for the future. There is obviously a huge amount of reliance on social as well as word of mouth that we want to continue to build. So that build on brand awareness and word of mouth, it's really important that our customers, as they enter a Primark for the first time, that they really are absolutely wowed by the in-store experience, about finding an item that they love, that they can touch the fabric, that they can try it on, that they can see and feel the quality, the durability, they can see the price, and have that moment of, I look great in this. I love this item, and actually I can afford it. It's easy on the wallet as well. And that moment and that reaction, that emotional reaction, is what we want to continue to build that word of mouth and build brand awareness. So as we open our first store in Texas, yes, we'll, do some social media marketing, and we'll get down and we'll do some local advertisements around the opening date, etc. Actually, what's more important to us is those first customers who line up ready for the store opening. The feedback that they then will give to their friends and family is paramount, because again, we're opening these stores and we want to be there for a long time. We've got big ambitions, particularly some states like Texas. So actually, that in-store experience is fundamental to us, and where we spend a lot of our time being very tough on ourselves around the product, the size availability, the pricing, the in-store journey, the experience at the cash register, the experience at the fitting rooms, and constantly just not being content with anything and constantly coming back to how do we improve this? How do we make sure that in-store experience is as slick and as smooth as it possibly can be?
As you think about long term, what is the strategy there for Primark in the US? Obviously, it seems like brick and mortar, you've kind of put your foot in the ground and said this is a growth opportunity that you believe. So tell us a little bit about that. And then maybe you mentioned 17 internet or 17 countries around the globe, maybe more international markets might not be necessarily the purview of your team here in the US, but thinking about internationally as well.
Yeah, in the US, we are really just getting started now. And I think, the number of stores that we've signed is a great signal for the amount of obviously stores that are coming up and the locations that we're going to be going into, the new states that we're going to be entering. And it's a really exciting time for retail in the US. I think there is a very clear opportunity around delivering that style, that fashionability, that quality, and that affordability and price to consumers in the US. And what we're seeing is that there is huge appetite for it. We're not an off-price retailer. I think we still have work to do to sort of explain that to our consumers. This is up-to-date trends. This is this season's product for absolutely amazing price points. So you don't need to sort of settle for maybe not the right level of fashionability or maybe not the right price. You can actually have it all in Primark. And I think that's the reaction that we're seeing from our customers. So, 29 stores by the end of 2024 in 12 states, 15 leases signed to come. And honestly, we're just starting to really gear up here in the US. For the rest of Primark, obviously, as I said, we're certainly not a new retailer in Europe, and there's still plenty of growth for us to go after in Europe, and some exciting opportunities ahead. I certainly don't have any big reveals today. It's not part of my remit, but all I would say again is that obviously our business in Europe continues to expand, and we've got plenty of stores that are opening in even some of our more mature markets, which is incredibly exciting to see.
Internally, you said you don't consider Primark to be an off-price retailer. I guess my follow-up then, what would you consider yourself to be? And are you willing to share what you would consider your competitive set to be here in the US?
Yeah, I think this is where we are something very, very different. If you look at our price points, and we hear this from our customers when they first come into our stores, the store environment that you're shopping in is something completely outside of what you might see with other retailers that have a similar price. And I think that's where we are able to offer something extremely unique in the US, where you've got this build on amazing fashionability, amazing style, and amazing affordability as well. And I think, look, from a competitive set standpoint, whenever consumers are out spending money, ultimately there is, there's a competitive set everywhere that they
Mhm.
are. And I think ultimately it's for us to continue to review what are the retailers doing in the market, where are people spending their money, and how can we make sure that customers are wanting to, as I said, get off their couch, make a trip to the mall, make a trip to the downtown area, and come and shop with Primark. And that's around the evolution of our product. It's around making sure that we've got the right product, the right sizes, that we're offering the customers something new as well. And I think, looking at our license partnerships is somewhere that we've had great evolution within our product. If I look at our partnership with Disney, Netflix, NBA, and NFL, some of the more recent ones, we've got some unbelievable product in there that's been so popular. And we're offering something that you just can't find in another retailer. So again, it's another reason to come and shop at Primark, and you can't get it online. You need to come and experience it in one of our stores, which for sure is driving foot traffic.
So my final question, I appreciate all the time today, Kevin. I've really enjoyed this. Um, as a leader within the Primark organization, scaling quickly can be great, but it also can lead to, concerns about challenges with culture and experience, whether it be the customer experience, the employee experience. Tell us a little bit about, as you think about building that right and proper Primark culture and experience here in the US, what are some of the things that you keep in mind at the top of your consideration set?
Yeah, I mean, my focus is to spend as much time in stores as possible. And every single week, I try and get 2 to 3 days in our stores, spending time with the store team, what's working, what's not working, and actually being authentic around it, having good, honest conversations around what's not working. Because I think, quite honestly, the teams in store and your customer for sure are quite clearly going to tell you what they're liking and what they're not liking. And I think it's really down to your choice of listening to it more often than not. And I think that notion, something that our founder, talks about a lot, was around, never sort of being complacent and constantly thinking about how we can be better every single day. And it's something that really we live by. As I'm walking around a store, hearing feedback from the team, there's very rarely things that come up that you can't change. There's very rarely impossible topics that come up. Quite often, it's just about making sure that you hear the feedback, think about what that means for your business, and actually then really thinking, right, well, what is the decision we've got to take there? And quite often being brave and saying, if this is what our customer is looking for, how can we make that happen? As I said, our customers that have been introduced to Primark, we're really happy with the reaction. But as we continue to grow scale, we need to continue to stay sharp and have that feedback being delivered to us. So I think certainly as a leader, that's what I'd like to continue to role model, and have all of our teams in store continue to talk to their customer and hear that feedback.
Yeah, and what better way to learn to be in the store, learning from the people that are really the front lines of the organization that are having those daily interactions with your customer. So a great philosophy there. I want to take the opportunity to thank Kevin Tulip, who again is the U.S. president of Primark, for joining us on this episode of Total Retail Talks and giving us a little bit of a preview of all the great things to come from that company. So, Kevin, thank you for the time today.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.